दहशत गर्दी एक ऐसा मामला है जिसको हम सियासत की मूशगाफियों में बिल्कुल भी पीछे नहीं छोड़ सकते, बिल्कुल भी नहीं भूल सकते। और कोयटा में अभी जो सानहा हुआ वो हमारे जहनों में अभी तक ताज़ा है। और इस्लामाबाद में जो कुछ भी हो, बहरहाल हमें नहीं भूलना चाहिए कि पाकिस्तान का एक बहुत ही बुनियादी मसला दहशत गर्दी है। कोयटा के मामलात को लेकर पाकिस्तान में हम दहशत गर्दी कैसे रोक सकते हैं, इस मौजू के ऊपर बात करने के लिए हमने आज जहमत दी है माइकल कुगलमैन को। माइकल कुगलमैन वुड्रो विल्सन इंटरनेशनल सेंटर वाशिंगटन में, इंटरनेशनल सेंटर फॉर स्कॉलर्स वाशिंगटन में काम करते हैं और बहुत ही उनकी गहरी नज़र है पाकिस्तान के इश्यूज़ के ऊपर, टेररिज्म के ऊपर। वो बहुत उन्होंने लिखा भी है। कोयटा के साने के ऊपर वॉशिंगटन पोस्ट में उनका आर्टिकल आया है जो दुनिया की एक बहुत ही बाअसर अखबार समझी जाती है। उनसे ज़रा बात करते हैं और समझते हैं कि पाकिस्तान का जो क्राइसिस है टेररिज्म का, उससे पाकिस्तान कैसे निपटे और आगे चलने का उनके ख्याल में मुमकिन हल कौन कौन से हैं। थैंक यू वेरी मच माइकल कुगलमैन फॉर जॉइनिंग अस। Yesterday I was going through your tweets and you suggested that LEJ might have partnered this Quetta incident, but your next phrase is very interesting. You said that LEJ is Punjab based organization. Will this spook government? So what really you meant by this?
Well, I mean, if it's true that Lashkar-e-Jhangvi carried out this attack in Quetta with ISIS, that should be very troubling for the Pakistani state and particularly the government. ISIS, of course, is an organization that so many people worry about in terms of the damage that it can cause. And, you know, what I was talking about Punjab, as you know, Punjab is such a critical province. I mean, it's the heartland, it's the bastion of the government and the military. And I think that there's a lot of concern that you could have a new campaign of terror in which Pakistani terror groups, particularly those with a significant presence in Punjab, try to carry out attacks in cooperation with an organization like ISIS. And clearly the Pakistani state does not want terrorism anywhere inside Pakistan, but certainly not in Punjab, which is such a critical area, critical province, because this is the area of strength. It is the bastion, the political bastion of the TMLN, and so on. So that's what I meant in that tweet. That, you know, there's a lot to worry about this possibility, this potential for some type of attack along the line.
But if we see the history behind Al-Qaeda and IS, they have always been rival organizations. But do you think that in this area or some of the incidents, LEJ historically has partnered with Al-Qaeda, but now you think that LEJ has shifted its loyalty from Al-Qaeda to IS?
Well, no, you're right that LEJ and most terror groups in Pakistan have historically been aligned very closely with Al-Qaeda, the rival of ISIS. But I think what we could be seeing here is a new strategy being used by ISIS and by Pakistani terror groups where you have cases of informal cooperation, even if there is not formal partnership. Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, so far as I know, has not stated that it is now formally aligned with ISIS. But I think that given that both of these organizations have similar views, they're cut from the same cloth, there's no reason to think that they would not cooperate informally, even if there's no formal partnership. And let's face it, if you want to think of a terrorist group, a terrorist organization in Pakistan that would be particularly likely to work with ISIS, it would be a group like Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, which is a strictly or a very strongly sectarian group. A lot of its attacks target Shias and so forth. And of course, ISIS is an organization that came about by exploiting sectarian divides in Iraq, and that allowed it to become a strong group. And there's a lot of good reason to believe that Lashkar-e-Jhangvi has actually sent some fighters to the Middle East to fight alongside ISIS over there. So for all these reasons, I think that even though, yes, LEJ is still aligned with Al-Qaeda, there's still reason to think that LEJ could partner with ISIS on informal levels, and that's very worrying.
But there are very strong sectarian differences of Deoband and the sect that IS follows. So, but do you think that for the operational needs they can cooperate irrespective of their sectarian differences?
Well, you're absolutely right. There are tremendous differences ideologically and in terms of many different aspects between these two groups, LEJ and ISIS, and between ISIS and all of the terror groups in Pakistan. But I think that, quite frankly, ISIS is in a position where globally it's on the defensive. It's suffering a lot of losses in Iraq. There's this operation in Mosul to take back territory, and I think ISIS is looking to form marriages of convenience, so to speak. And I think LEJ is in a similar position. LEJ has suffered some significant losses over the last year or so. As you know, its top leader, Malik Ashaq, was killed last year. And I think that LEJ, like ISIS, is looking for reasons to prove that it's still relevant. And in that way, it would be willing to form partnerships with unlikely partners, so to speak.
In the past, Pakistan government has strictly denied there is any denied the presence of IS in Pakistan, and has said this is just a propaganda. There is no IS is not present in Pakistan. But do you think that this incident, and before that what we have seen in August, where the lawyers have been targeted and Daesh accepted the responsibility of that incident too? So now it's a time for the government of Pakistan to think seriously about the presence of IS in Pakistan?
I think that ISIS does not have a significant physical presence in Pakistan. It does not have a significant physical presence in Pakistan. My sense is that if you want to talk about the presence of ISIS in the region, you need to look at Afghanistan. I mean, there are several hundred, mostly former Pakistani Taliban fighters now aligned with ISIS that are based in eastern Afghanistan. And I think that's where you have to worry about a physical presence. I think in Pakistan, though, you do have really the fact that ISIS can pose as inspiration to a number of radicals and to militants that may be not interested in continuing their allegiances with their organizations, whether it be the Pakistani Taliban or Lashkar-e-Jhangvi or whatever the case may be. So I would not say that you have hundreds of ISIS fighters hiding out inside Pakistan. I don't think that's the case. I think they're in Afghanistan across the border. But I do think that you have to worry about the threat, just because you have the extremist ideologies inside Pakistan, and you have all the terror groups that could lead to situations where ISIS could seem very attractive, and ISIS could be very influential in Pakistan, even if it does not have physical presence. And ISIS could then look to partner with players on the ground in Pakistan.
Interesting. Okay. In your Washington Post article, I was going through. You said that insufficient security is widespread problem in countries like Pakistan. Such lax security is in a volatile country is a recipe for tragedy. I tend to agree with what you have written, but problem is that how can really you ensure the security of the soft targets in a country like Pakistan? It's a country of 200 million people. How will you ensure security of the soft targets where obviously we don't have that kind of resources and etc.? What is the lessons we can learn from the developed countries in this regard?
Well, this is a very good question. I think it's very difficult to come up with a good solution. Right? Where do you get the resources? Where do you get the capital? Where do you get so many things to fortify these very soft targets? And I will acknowledge that Pakistan is not the only country dealing with this problem. My country, U.S., has the same problem. Here in Washington D.C., we have a subway system, a metro system that many people talk about being a huge terrorist threat because there's effectively no security. You go down the escalator, you enter the station, there's no metal detectors, there's no nothing. And, a lone wolf or a single terrorist could easily walk in with a bomb and cause all kinds of problems. And here in the U.S., theoretically, we have the money, we have the will, we have the resources to do these things. But I think there's a lot of concern about constraining access and making things more inconvenient. So, my answer to you is, I think, in the case of Pakistan, to make it very clear to policymakers, and they know this, policymakers know this, that it seems like we've entered into a new campaign of terrorism in Pakistan in which it is not the fortified targets that are getting hit. Military facilities are not getting hit to the extent that they were several years back, but instead, you have almost uniquely soft targets getting hit, whether they be hospitals or parks or schools, polio vaccination centers, and of course police academies most recently. You need to really make that point very clear that these soft targets are even more vulnerable than they had before, and that there needs to be a way to set aside resources and money and time. The political will needs to be generated to better fortify these places. And I know it's not going to be something that can be done overnight, but even if you just have a few more guards manning their stations, hopefully that could make a difference and could perhaps save some lives.
This Pakistan's National Security Advisor, General Janjua, has suggested that Indian RAW and Afghanistan's NDS is sponsoring terrorism in Pakistan via Afghanistan, and they are basically funding organizations, terrorist organizations here in Pakistan. Do you agree with his suggestion?
Well, I mean, this has sparked a lot of rather vitriolic debate on Twitter over the last 2 days. I've had some conversations with some folks that brought that very point up. And, look, I'll say this. Clearly, Pakistan has a very bad relationship with India and with Afghanistan. And you do have to assume that there could be some covert games going on. So that does not mean, in my view, that you have the intelligence agencies of India and Afghanistan that are carrying out or sponsoring these attacks. I think what I will acknowledge is that you have quite a few terrorists based inside Afghanistan along the border region, including some key Pakistani Taliban leaders and others, Jamaat-ul-Ahrar faction of the Taliban based in Afghanistan, and they're there, and nothing is really being done about them. Now, whether the Afghan intelligence service is essentially providing them sanctuary, I don't know if I'd go that far, but the bottom line is you have very dangerous terrorists in Afghanistan that are targeting Pakistan, and nothing is really being done about it. And it begs the question of why is more not being done on the Afghanistan side of the border to go after those anti-Pakistan terrorists. But other than that, in terms of India, certainly, I mean, the Indian leadership has made very clear that it's not going to sit quietly in the face of what it regards as Pakistani provocations. I think that there certainly are some covert games going on, but I would not suggest that India had any sort of role in this attack. In my view, if India wanted to do something to push back against Pakistan, it would do, limited stuff. It would go after terrorists on Pakistani soil. It would target Pakistani military or troops, that type of thing. But in terms of targeting civilians, in terms of targeting soft targets or targeting civilians, I don't think that's the way that India would choose to exercise its use of covert games. I think it would not go that far.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michael Kugelman, for joining us on this topic. बहुत हम तफसील से माइकल कुगलमैन ने बताया जो है इन मामलात के ऊपर डिस्कशन की है. उम्मीद है कि हमें एक नई डायमेंशन कम से कम ज़रूर मिली होगी इस मौजू के ऊपर. ब्रेक लेते हैं, ब्रेक के बाद वापस आते हैं तो बढ़ते हैं अपने अगले मौजू की तरफ.